Hi, this is Audrey Blair, and you're listening to the Change is Hard podcast, episode 3. Today I'm going to talk about the 5 types of issues that you might be running into on a regular basis. Now, why is it important to distinguish between the types of issues before you dive in to try and solve them? Well, stick around, find out now. Well, hello and welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you're doing well. I am definitely sending you good vibes. And I wanted to come to you today and just do a quick podcast on types of issues that we run into fairly regularly that we're trying to solve. And as you're going about your day, whether it's at home or at work and dealing with different people and you have your own personal things that are going on, we have issues that we're trying to solve. Well, I want to talk about the types of issues that you might be trying to solve. And it's important to identify what kind it is. Mostly, we actually treat everything as a problem. And yes, it is a word that is used as an umbrella term for a lot of these things. But if you're more specific in identifying what you're actually trying to solve, it will help you to apply a more appropriate process, and it'll help you to clarify why there might be some discomfort in the decision or in the process for solving it. The other thing to keep in mind is that not everything is solvable. Some things just need to be managed. So I'm going to talk about 5 types of issues that we run into. All right, you ready? Number 1 is a puzzle. And a puzzle requires some type of logical thinking or sometimes even mathematical reasoning. It points to one path, one fix, one key to solving the issue. Just like an actual puzzle, when you have all the pieces and you put them together, it creates one picture. You can't rearrange the pieces to try and come up with a different picture. That's not how that works. So some examples that we might run into here are we have 2 incompatible components that aren't working. Well, they don't work together, so you have to find the piece that fits with the other. Sometimes we're in a situation and we have to ask the question, what specifically is missing from this situation or in this scenario? And that can help us to hone in or narrow down into finding the specific issue that's happening. My car won't start. Well, what could that be? You check the battery. Is it the battery? No. You check the starter. I don't know what all things are about your car. But anyway, sometimes there is one thing that needs to be fixed in order to get it going again. All right. So the second type of issue is a problem. Now, a problem is very common and usually always has one or more solutions from which to choose. You can use known information or methods in order to solve a problem, but sometimes people get stuck here because they're looking for the exact right solution. But as I said, a problem often has more than one solution that fits, so you just get to choose one. And when you're trying to find the one right one, you can do a lot of waiting and spending a lot of time versus let's just pick one. We're going to make it right. We're going to make it work. Yes, sometimes there is a good, better, best situation when it comes to solving a problem. But again, those are 3 different things you get to choose from. So if you're working with your team and you're thinking about how can we improve efficiency and productivity, there might be multiple ways to solve that. But you waiting to find the exact solution really goes against what you're trying to do. So pick one, see if it works. It gives you an opportunity to evaluate, and you can certainly try something else. If there's a traffic jam, that creates an opportunity to choose a different route to where you're going. Sometimes you have multiple offers in front of you. Which one do you select? And you can base that on what the conditions are for those offers. So the third one type of issue is a dilemma. And a dilemma is a situation where there is a difficult choice that must be made between two or more options. And each option has its own set of consequences. Dilemmas aren't necessarily fun to deal with. Most likely, whichever you choose will rub up against some value, maybe one of your core values. So, some examples here might be, should I stay in my stable career or my stable job that I'm not that passionate about? Some people call this the golden handcuffs. Or do I take a risk and do something that I am more passionate about? Maybe try a different industry or type of role. Maybe you have two great opportunities in front of you. One offers more money and an exciting role, but requires you to move or requires you to come into the office. The other one might pay less, but you don't have to move or go anywhere. Sometimes, and this is a common one as well, you might have sensitive information that could help someone or prevent someone from doing something dangerous or hazardous. But if you share it, it might break trust. And that situation may not actually occur. So you have a dilemma on your hands. Do you share it and break the trust? Or do you wait and see? Whichever you choose with the dilemma basically boils down to which decision you can live with and which one you can feel the best about. What consequences are you willing to accept? So if you're in the middle of something that doesn't feel great, stop and consider whether you have a dilemma on your hands because none of the decisions feel that great. That's also a place where people can get stuck because they're waiting for what they choose to feel good. And sometimes with a dilemma, it's not until you actually make the choice that you're able to narrow that and feel a little bit better about moving forward. All right, number 4 is a paradox. Now, this is when you have two interdependent demands that are different from each other, which creates tension. You may also think of this as polarity. Now, a paradox cannot be solved, it can only be managed. You have to develop beyond the either or mindset in these cases. Sometimes it might mean something bad for the greater good. Those situations do occur, but hopefully you aren't faced with those types of paradoxes regularly. More common issues are things like how much time you spend on long term planning versus short term day to day decisions and issues. Spending too much time on one takes away from the other. This is a huge issue with clients, and they're wanting to be more strategic in their leadership, but not finding time, that thinking time that's required in order to think more long term. Organizations may deal with this when they are deciding whether to centralize or localize various aspects of operations. If you centralize, maybe it's more efficient, maybe it's cheaper, but those in the local areas, they may feel like, well, now we have a bunch of bureaucracy to deal with, or now there's certain jobs that are redundant. If you stay local, then maybe you create silos and some of the other things that go with that. So there is that balancing effect. Which of the things do we centralize and which things do we allow to stay locally? Certainly with how you spend your money or how you invest your money. Do you invest now or save now? Sometimes investing now actually creates more money in the long run. Sometimes saving does that. Other things that come up with dealing with polarity is how much you trust others versus being self-reliant. How optimistic are you versus being realistic? So there are lots of ways that paradoxes might show up in our life. We don't necessarily realize it, but it's about managing it. And sometimes it does require spending more time in one versus the other. But if you come back and figure out what the right balance for you is, that is the best way to manage through those paradoxes without being surprised when now it's a new year and you haven't set any goals for what you'd like to do moving forward. Number 5 is a mystery. Now, mystery is when something is unexplained or unsolved. And to solve it requires some type of investigation or maybe a discovery at some point to uncover the truth. Like, what's the deal with the Bermuda Triangle? Who knows? I don't know. It's a mystery. Why do I still have to remind my son to take a shower? Same mystery. I don't know. But a lot of times this shows up when there's a tradition or something in the culture that exists for a long time and no one knows the origin story, or the reason why that was created to begin with no longer exists. So often the question is, do we keep doing this in the same way or do we do it at all? So a mystery is often one of those things that you just accept as is and often simply work around. So those are 5 types of issues: the puzzle, the problem, dilemma, paradox, and mystery. And really, the best way to solve an issue is to first identify the type of issue that you are facing. It might require you a few more minutes of thinking it through, but once you know the type, now you can develop a plan, a better plan for how you can solve or manage through it. So that is a quick tip for you. Thanks for stopping by, and I will talk to you later. Hey, if you are an ambitious emerging leader and want to work with me one-on-one to help you get unstuck or get clarity on where your leadership journey is taking you, sign up for a free consult with the link in the show notes.